Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive. We are so glad you're with us today as we unpack a topic that is reshaping the geopolitical map in real time. Thanks for watching or listening. Right now, at 50,000 feet, an invisible net is being drawn around mainland China. It's silent, it's persistent, and it's growing every single day. It's called the MQ-9 Reaper. You've seen it in the Middle East, but in the Indo-Pacific, it's evolved. This isn't just a drone anymore. It's the backbone of a new collective intelligence network shared by the U.S. and its closest allies. From Japan to India, these SeaGuardians are tracking every ship, every sub, and every missile battery Beijing moves. And for the PLA, the challenge isn't just shooting them down, it's that they can't stop what they can't see coming. Is China truly surrounded? Or does the PLA have a secret weapon to break the Reaper's hold? Let's dive in.
That hook, it really does set the stage perfectly, because we're not just talking about a gadget here.
No, not at all.
We're looking at a fundamental shift in geostrategy. It's not one piece of hardware. It's about a coordinated shift across the entire Indo-Pacific. It's about geography, it's about data, and, the very definition of a border.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because when I hear Reaper drone, and I think most of us are in the same boat, I have a very specific image in my head.
Right.
I'm thinking counterterrorism. The Middle East.
Yeah.
That grainy black and white footage of, hunting insurgents in a desert and frankly, targeted strikes like the one on Qasem Soleimani.
That hunter-killer role, yeah.
Exactly. But now we're talking about great power competition with China. So how does a slow-moving drone built for hunting insurgents fit into a standoff with a superpower? A superpower with advanced radar and missiles.
That is the most common misconception. It's when the military is trying hard to shake. We tend to pigeonhole the Reaper as a terrorist hunter because, that's where it got famous. But the platform itself is really just a truck. You can put whatever you want in the back. And in the Indo-Pacific, the mission has changed completely. It's gone from hunting individuals to high-altitude, long-endurance maritime surveillance.
So it's trading the desert camo for, navy blue?
In a sense, yeah. The key numbers here are altitude and endurance. The MQ-9 can operate at up to 50,000 feet.
50,000.
That's over 15,000 meters. So that gives it this just massive line of sight. But the real kicker is time. It can stay up there for 30 to 40 hours.
30 hours.
Depending on the payload, yes. Compare that to a satellite. A satellite passes over a target for a few minutes, and then it's gone.
Right, until the next orbit.
Exactly. A Reaper is an eye in the sky that doesn't blink. It provides persistent detection.
Okay, but looking at the ocean is different than looking at a desert. The ocean is huge. And submarines, which I'm assuming are a major target here, they're underwater. A camera at 50,000 feet can't see a submarine, can it?
You're absolutely right. It can't see through water. And this brings us to the specific variant getting all the attention in the news, the SeaGuardian.
The SeaGuardian.
And this is where the tech gets really cool. General Atomics has equipped this version with a system to dispense sonobuoys.
Whoa, hold on. Back up a second. Sonobuoys. I'm picturing old war movies. A destroyer pinging away. How does a drone dropping those from the sky actually find a silent submarine?
It's a numbers game. A sonobuoys is basically a disposable microphone that floats. You drop a pattern of them into the water, and they listen for engine noise, sonar pings, whatever.
And normally you'd need a big plane for that.
Typically, you need a crewed aircraft, like a P-8 Poseidon, which is, a militarized Boeing 737, or a ship to drop those.
And those are expensive to fly.
Incredibly expensive. And they put a human crew at risk. Plus, you have a limited number of them. But the SeaGuardian upgrade, it lets the drone carry and drop these buoys. It's a game changer because you're decoupling the ears from the shooter. You don't need a billion-dollar ship to find the sub anymore. You just need a cheaper robot to drop a disposable mic and loiter above it for a day and a half, relaying that data back to base.
That makes a lot of sense. It turns the Reaper into a sub-hunter that never sleeps. But let's zoom out to the map. We started talking about an encirclement. I want to visualize this. Where are these things actually parking?
It is a massive amount of real estate, but the deployment is actually very, very specific. If you look at the recent updates, they are tracing what military strategists call the first island chain.
The first island chain, that's the barrier of islands from Japan down to the Philippines, right? The thing that essentially boxes China in.
Exactly. It's the gate China has to pass through to get to the open Pacific. So let's just walk down that chain. Start in Japan.
Okinawa. It's always Okinawa.
It is. The U.S. Marine Corps has 6 MQ-9s stationed indefinitely at Kadena Air Base there. That's on top of 8 other Reapers the Air Force has had there since late 2023.
So you have a whole swarm of them sitting in Okinawa. And from there, what are they looking at?
From that vantage point, they can keep the East China Sea and the Taiwan Strait under constant watch. It's the perfect perch.
Okay.
Now, move a bit north on your mental map to South Korea. Since September, a new Reaper squadron has been deployed to Kunsan Air Base.
Is that a first? I usually just hear about U-2 spy planes in Korea.
It's the first time a squadron like this has been on the Korean peninsula. Their mission is monitoring the Yellow Sea. So you're watching Chinese activity, plus keeping an eye on North Korea. It closes that northern exit.
So north is covered. What about the south?
And that's where the Philippines comes in. In November, the U.S. Marine Corps deployed an MQ-9 squadron to Basa Air Base.
Basa Air Base.
And that plugs the gap for the South China Sea.
Wow. So if you draw lines between South Korea, Okinawa, and the Philippines, that's not random placement. That is a fence.
It's a physical curtain of surveillance. It covers almost every major maritime exit point for China. The U.S. is effectively putting CCTV cameras on every door China could use to leave its house.
But here's the thing, and this is where I think that net metaphor really lands. It's not just the U.S. flying these, right? This is where that term collective intelligence comes in.
Right. And this is the part that, arguably worries Beijing more than just the U.S. hardware. It's the allies aspect. The U.S. isn't just flying these drones, they're selling them, and more importantly, integrating them.
So who's buying in?
Japan is going big. Their Coast Guard aims to double its fleet to 10 by 2026. And their Maritime Self-Defense Force, their Navy, basically is buying 23 SeaGuardians by 2032.
23. That's a significant fleet.
It is. Then look at Taiwan. They ordered 4 MQ-9Ds back in 2020. The first ones are expected to be delivered later this year.
I read something interesting about that Taiwan order, that the weapons might be stripped out.
Yeah, reports suggest the armaments are being removed. The idea is to focus purely on intelligence and maybe avoid riling Beijing too much. It's a delicate balance. But even without missiles, the data they gather is lethal.
And then there's India. I saw they're writing a huge check.
Massive. India already had 2 MQ-9Bs after that border clash with China in 2020. But they recently put in an order for 31 more drones. That's a $3.5 billion deal.
31. So you have Japan, Taiwan, India, plus the U.S. And South Korea and Australia are getting the tech to build their own.
Exactly.
But hold on. Collective intelligence. That sounds a little like a corporate buzzword. What does it actually mean for, say, a captain on a Chinese ship? Why does he care if India has a drone if he's near Japan?
Think of it like Waze for missiles.
Waze for missiles.
Right. When you use Waze, you benefit from every other driver's data. If a drone from India spots a Chinese ship, it doesn't just sit in a filing cabinet in New Delhi. It uploads that location to a network.
So because they're buying the U.S. platform, they're all using U.S. data links. The hardware comes with a subscription to the network.
Precisely. It creates an integrated architecture. A Japanese destroyer 500 miles away could see that blip instantly. The drone is the eyes. The destroyer is the fist. They don't have to be in the same country to be part of the same kill chain.
It's a synchronized neighborhood watch.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's what worries them. They're not being watched by isolated countries anymore.
Which pivots us perfectly to the view from Beijing. How does the People's Liberation Army see this? Is it just an annoyance like a mosquito, or is it a genuine existential threat?
It's definitely more than a mosquito. The analysis coming out of their own military journals, it paints a picture of real concern. They highlight the penetration fear.
Penetration.
Because of that high altitude, the fear is that these drones can operate near the periphery or even, gradually penetrate Chinese airspace to conduct target designation.
And target designation is a polite way of saying painting a target for a missile. Right.
Essentially, yes. And remember, the Reaper isn't just a spotter, it can shoot. The PLA analysis mentions the combat advantage. If a Reaper spots a submarine, it doesn't have to wait for backup. It can engage.
That creates a really tense situation. I mean, we are technically in peacetime. But if you have a foreign military asset on your border capable of killing you instantly, that's a lot of pressure.
That is the dilemma. In a hot war, the solution is simple. You shoot it down. But in peacetime, how do you stop a drone at 50,000 feet that's legally in international airspace without escalating everything?
It seems like a recipe for a miscalculation.
It is. The challenge for China is conducting effective counter-reconnaissance without causing an accidental collision or interception that triggers a bigger conflict.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate here. We've been talking about the Reaper like it's invincible. But you said these things fly at 300 miles per hour. That's slower than a commercial airliner. Aren't these things just expensive clay pigeons?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, and the answer is uncomfortable. In a hot war, they are clay pigeons.
I thought so.
They've been downed in Afghanistan by the Houthis, in Yemen, who reportedly knocked out more than 10 of them, and in Ukraine. They are not invincible.
So why buy them? Why is Japan buying 23 of them if they're just going to get blown out of the sky on day one of a war?
Because the strategy isn't about World War III starting tomorrow. It's about the gray zone.
The gray zone.
That period right before the shooting starts. And in the gray zone, you need persistence. You need to see everything. And you can't just shoot down a U.S. drone in peacetime without starting the war you're trying to prepare for. It puts China in a real bind.
So China just has to tolerate them?
Not necessarily. They have options. Option A is electronic warfare, jamming, a soft kill. But there is a much more aggressive and frankly cinematic concept floating around in PLA circles.
Oh.
A retired PLA colonel suggested the best way to expel a Reaper isn't with a manned jet, but with a drone of their own.
Drone-on-drone combat.
Exactly, the drone dogfight. China has its own advanced platforms like the Winglong 10 and the Kaihong 5. They have comparable performance. So the idea is to use a Chinese drone with air-to-air ammo to intercept the U.S. drones.
That sounds like science fiction. Two robots fighting over the South China Sea while the pilots are thousands of miles away?
It sounds like sci-fi, but it's a very real strategic proposition.
Yeah.
It solves the political problem. You aren't risking a human pilot, so maybe the threshold for pulling the trigger is lower.
That's terrifyingly ambiguous.
Imagine it. You have a U.S. Reaper and a Chinese Winglong, unmanned, circling each other at 50,000 feet. They start firing missiles. No humans die, but debris rains down. Technically, shots were fired between superpowers. Does that count as war, or is it just robot vandalism?
That's the question, isn't it? It lowers the threshold because nobody has to write a letter to a grieving mother. But once the missiles start flying, how do you stop it from escalating?
That's the strategic risk. The technology that keeps soldiers safe might make the decision to start fighting much, much easier.
So, to recap, the U.S. has built this wall of eyes and potential missiles around China. It's backed up by a coalition of allies sharing data like a military ways, and China is now contemplating sending its own drone fleet to fight back.
That's the summary. We've moved from containment to integration. The threat to China isn't just the hardware, it's the unified data network. It's the fact that a drone from India could feed targeting data to a Japanese ship via a U.S. data link. That is a strategic nightmare for Beijing.
It really does change the definition of a border, doesn't it? It's not just a line on a map anymore, it's a data field.
It is, and it leaves us with that provocative reality. As we automate warfare, we might be removing the very human hesitation that has kept the peace for decades.
Well, we will certainly be keeping an eye on this. The invisible net is tightening, and the response might change how we think about air superiority forever. Thank you so much for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating, if slightly terrifying, development.
And thank you to everyone for listening or watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please do check out the other podcasts in our network. We've got great teams covering everything from tech to history. Until next time, stay curious.